We have filed numerous federal charges.
New criminal charges against 5 people in the overdose death of actor Matthew Perry.
They knew what they were doing was risking great danger to Mr. Perry, but they did it anyways.
9 months after the Friends star was found unresponsive at his Los Angeles home, prosecutors accused 2 doctors, a so-called ketamine queen, and 2 others of providing lethal doses of the drug.
The way that his doctors were prescribing him ketamine was completely unconventional.
The CBS Evening News starts now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in for Nora. 2 of those people, a doctor known as Dr. P and an alleged dealer called the Ketamine Queen, appeared in court today in connection to the accidental death of Matthew Perry. In all, 5 people were charged for allegedly supplying large quantities of the drug ketamine to the Friends star, who relapsed. Federal prosecutors say this was a broad, underground criminal network that conspired to prescribe, sell, and inject Perry with ketamine. The U.S. attorney said the group took advantage of the actor's addiction for one simple reason: money. CBS's Adam Yamaguchi is outside the federal courthouse in Los Angeles.
Agent 23, Rescue 23, EMS 9 on radio. Respond to the drowning.
In the days leading up to his death, Matthew Perry was spiraling out of control, according to investigators.
In the fall of 2023, Mr. Perry fell back into addiction, and these defendants took advantage to profit for themselves.
5 people have been charged with conspiring to distribute the ketamine that killed him, including 2 doctors and Perry's personal live-in assistant. The 54-year-old Friends star long battled substance abuse and first received ketamine infusions to treat depression, but he later sought out larger, illegal doses from doctors and drug dealers.
Ketamine at low doses is a sedative, but at higher doses, it becomes an anesthetic. So like many things in pharmacology, the dose is the poison.
Court documents include text messages between the 2 doctors charged that say, "I wonder how much this moron will pay, and let's find out."
Over 2 months, from September to October 2023, they distributed approximately 20 vials of ketamine to Mr. Perry in exchange for $55,000 in cash.
Investigators allege Perry's personal assistant, who found him unresponsive, had given him multiple shots of ketamine for 5 consecutive days, including the day he died. On another occasion, Perry was injected with a large dose that caused him to freeze up and his blood pressure to significantly spike.
That's not something that would happen if you were receiving this medication under the appropriate care.
Perry's family said in a statement that while they are still heartbroken, they look forward to justice taking its course. 3 of the defendants, including Perry's personal assistant, have agreed to plead guilty.
That is the message. Breaking the law is breaking the law, and you are dangerous and you are jeopardizing lives.
If convicted on all accounts, the doctor arraigned today could face a sentence of up to 120 years in prison. And the alleged drug dealer, known as the Ketamine Queen, could face life in prison. Major?
Adam Yamaguchi, thank you so much. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris appeared together today at their first public event since she became the Democratic nominee. In the heat of the presidential campaign, the 2 teamed up to talk about the economy, inflation, and lowering the cost of everyday items. CBS's Weijia Jiang reports from the White House about a Medicare first.
I love you back. It was a White House event to highlight lowering the cost of prescription drugs.
No senior should have to choose between either filling their prescription or paying their rent.
But President Biden wasted no time campaigning for Vice President Harris in their first official joint appearance since she became the Democratic presidential nominee.
She's going to make one hell of a president. Let me tell you what our Project 2025 is. Beat the hell out of them.
In New Jersey, former President Donald Trump dismissed criticism that he should focus more on substance and less on personally attacking Harris.
I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence.
Trump also bashed the Biden administration for not doing enough to stop rising prices. Today, the White House announced agreements with drug manufacturers to bring down the price for 10 widely used medications that will take effect in 2026. The Medicare negotiation program marks the first time the federal government has haggled with drug makers.
I think it's an enormous step.
80-year-old Frank Irwin takes Xarelto to treat a rapid heart rate, one of the top 3 most prescribed drugs on the list. A 30-day supply will go from $517 to $197. Irwin says the savings are way overdue.
I've never understood why the drug cartel, if that's the right term for it, has such a monopoly. And has the lobbyists out there that they can get the laws written.
Tomorrow, Vice President Harris will deliver her first policy speech as a presidential nominee with a focus on the economy. And new tonight, vice presidential candidates Governor Tim Walz and Senator J.D. Vance have agreed to a debate right here on CBS, moderated by Nora and Face the Nation's Margaret Brennan. It's set for October 1st in New York City. Major.
Filed under must-see TV. Weijia Jiang, thank you. Federal law enforcement officials tell CBS News the Secret Service is arranging for former President Donald Trump to resume outdoor campaign rallies by surrounding his podium with bulletproof glass. This level of protection is typically reserved for sitting presidents, but we're told the Secret Service is making an exception following last month's assassination attempt. A hurricane warning is in effect tonight for Bermuda, with Ernesto barreling across the Atlantic. The Category 1 storm, packing 85-mile-per-hour winds, is forecast to strengthen significantly in the next 24 hours. CBS's David Malkoff is in Bermuda.
Before Hurricane Ernesto slams into Bermuda, a rush of people are trying to get out. Travelers like Michael Vanderbilt from Arlington, Virginia, waited in long lines at the airport after cutting his trip short.
I was here for a week of vacation, and I'm just taking the opportunity to leave a little early so I don't get caught up in the aftermath of the storm.
The waves are already getting quite rough here on the south end of Bermuda, but this sand right here is what's protecting some of these homes and businesses. Just ask Robert Patwood.
40, 50 pounds, because the sand's wet.
And he's running out of time to fill those buckets. Ernesto is on track to pass near or over Bermuda on Saturday and could dump up to a foot of rain. So Bermudians like Richard Evans are boarding up.
You never know until it actually hits, because it can change direction, but you prepare like it's going to hit.
After tearing through parts of the Caribbean, including Puerto Rico on Wednesday, residents are still coping with the damage left behind.
I'm Manuel Bojorquez in Fajardo, Puerto Rico, on the northeast corner of the island, where debris piles like this one from damaged businesses are growing. Also growing, the sense of frustration over the power situation here. By Thursday evening, more than 300,000 customers remained without power, as 1,600 crew members work as quickly as possible to repair the beleaguered power grid. This as some parts of the island, like Añasco on the west coast, remain flooded.
Back in Bermuda, the Commodore at this marina is making sure all the boats are secure. You tried to move everything out.
We do, yeah. We try to get everything out of here just to mitigate the risk.
I was also talking to a local insurance company, and Major, as of just this afternoon, late in the afternoon, they were scrambling around the island and they were updating policies for people who may be underinsured here in Bermuda as the big storm comes this way.
David Malkoff and Manuel Bojorquez, thank you so much. CBS's Lonnie Quinn is tracking Ernesto's latest path. Lonnie, give us the update.
All right, the latest information from the National Hurricane Center is that the storm has gotten stronger from where it was yesterday. Yesterday it was holding on to about 80-mile-per-hour winds. Now it's 85. So Ernesto is still a Category 1. But again, it will continue to get stronger as we go into your day tomorrow. There are the current stats. It's about 500 miles from Bermuda, and sure enough, it's moving in the direction of Bermuda. Here's your track. So while it may or may not be a landfall in Bermuda, Bermuda is in that cone of concern. They're going to be dealing with winds at about 90 miles per hour. It's either going to be, Major, a strong Category 1 or a low-grade Cat 2 as it passes the island nation. And I think the toughest time period will be a 24-hour span from Friday night into Saturday night, right around Bermuda. We see a little flash of red on the screen. They could be talking 20, 30-foot swells. Now, those swells, they mitigate out towards the shoreline, and for the coastline of the U.S., we're talking 8 to 10-foot waves, but that also brings about a super high risk for rip currents. Of course, it's a summer weekend coming up. Anywhere from Wilmington all the way up to Cape Cod, you have a high risk for rip currents out there. Not a great weekend to be diving into our ocean. Certainly not a weekend at all to be going into the water if it's not a protected beach. But that is the very latest on Ernesto. We're going to follow this as the night goes on, but right now, Major, let's go back to you.
Lonnie Quinn, thank you so much. Negotiations to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza got underway today as Israel braces for a threatened retaliatory strike by Iran that many fear could ignite a wider war. CBS's Remy Inocencio was in Tel Aviv, and we warn you, some of the images are graphic.
Now, chanted supporters of hostages still in Gaza. This protest coinciding with the start of ceasefire talks in Qatar, billed as a last chance march.
I'm angry.
Ifat Calderon is the cousin of Ofer Calderon, one of an estimated 115 hostages alive and dead.
If a ceasefire does not happen soon, what will happen to the hostages?
I believe that they're not going to survive.
This has to be the last Israeli-Palestinian war. We've been killing each other for more than 100 years.
Gershon Baskin is a former Israeli negotiator.
And we forget that there are human beings on the other side.
On that other side is 7-year-old Sila Hosso. Shrapnel scarred from an Israeli strike, she nearly died. It hurts here and my eye, she whispered, lines of staples and stitches in her head. One of more than 90,000 Gazans wounded since October 7th. Looking at her past, Sila hopes for her future. I wish to be a doctor to treat other little children. I wish to get married, and I wish to have a doll.
And Major, we're monitoring reports of Israeli settler violence against Palestinian villagers in the West Bank. Reportedly, dozens of masked Israelis set fire to homes and cars. One Palestinian shot and killed another severely injured. Prime Minister Netanyahu, whose far-right government has enabled illegal settler action, says anyone caught will be prosecuted.
With all the latest details, Remy Inocencio, thank you very much. A Los Angeles ballerina has been sentenced to 12 years in a Russian prison for treason over a $51 donation to a Ukrainian human rights organization. 33-year-old Ksenia Karolina is a dual citizen of the U.S. and Russia and was visiting family when she was arrested. Her boyfriend spoke about her ordeal to CBS Mornings.
There was a person swap 2 weeks ago, and Ksenia was not on that list. How did we slip up? I have questions, and I'm angry.
Russian officials falsely claim her donation benefited Ukraine's military. Her lawyer is hoping she'll now be included in a future prisoner exchange. Taylor Swift resumes her summer concert tour under heightened security. That's next. Taylor Swift is wrapping up the European leg of her summer concert tour in London a week after an alleged terror plot forced organizers to cancel her shows in Vienna, Austria. CBS's MTS Tayeb reports.
Even with security as sharply stepped up as this, nothing, it seems, could keep fans from flocking to Taylor Swift's triumphant return to London's legendary Wembley Stadium.
We love Taylor! Welcome to the Eras Tour!
The extra searchers were brought in following the cancellation of her 3 Vienna concerts after Austrian investigators foiled an alleged terror plot there.
Our daughters are the big Swifties and we're just the moms.
They're like mom Swifties.
We're the mom Swifties.
We were anxious in the week leading up to it. We wondered if it would be cancelled, didn't we?
Yeah.
But actually, the security feels good and there's just a really lovely vibe here.
The new restrictions include banning Swifties, as they're known, from camping outside stadiums and so-called tailgating, which is when fans without tickets gather near the venue to sing along to Swift's biggest hits while she performs them inside, like the 40,000 who tailgated at a show in Munich last month. British concert venues were already on high alert following the 2017 bomb attack at an Ariana Grande performance in Manchester, when 22 people were killed, including young children, something no one here wants to see happen again.
And security advisors are really breathing a sigh of relief tonight after the concert went off without a hitch. Now, Swift has 4 more shows here in London as part of the final leg of her European Eras tour, with an estimated 500,000 expected to attend. Major.
MTS Tayeb, thank you. American gymnast Jordan Chiles is opening up about having the bronze medal stripped from her at the Paris Olympics. In an Instagram post, Chiles said the decision feels unjust. U.S. Gymnastics says it is continuing to fight to let Chiles keep the medal after it was ruled that Chiles' coach was seconds late in appealing her score. Eye on America is next with a look at data centers, the infrastructure that runs the internet, and the incredible amount of energy needed to sustain them. Did you know the average ChatGPT request requires almost 10 times more electricity than a Google search? In tonight's Eye on America, Ben Tracy looks at the data centers that drive our digital lives and their growing demands for energy.
This is a Google data center outside of Reno, Nevada.
It's hard to imagine that there is a physical location where the internet lives, but this is it.
Inside are endless rows of servers and miles of cables, the arteries of the internet.
Is this everything from like somebody's doing a Google search, somebody's watching a cat video, and that's all coming through here?
Absolutely. It's all that and more.
Amanda Peterson-Corio is Google's global head of data center energy.
And these fans are cooling our data centers.
On the rooftop, she showed us the hundreds of fans that keep all those computers humming. This is just one of at least 2,700 data centers that stretch from the suburbs of Virginia to the deserts of the West. They are mostly run by big tech firms and consume more than 4% of all electricity in the U.S. in 2022. That's projected to more than double to 9% by 2030. The nation's aging grid is also threatened by the soaring demands of artificial intelligence. It uses nearly 10 times the electricity of a typical internet search.
Is this amount of electricity use sustainable?
It's a real challenge. As we look to the next decade, those demands continue to grow. And the real challenge is figuring out how can we do this in a way that meets our climate goals.
Google's planet-warming emissions rose by 13% last year and have jumped nearly 50% since 2019. The company has spent heavily to bring new wind and solar power to the grid and says 64% of the time its operations run on clean energy. But when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing, data centers still rely on gas and coal, creating more carbon emissions, fueling climate change.
We need something that has that reliability, that works 24/7.
That something may be here in the desert of southern Utah.
We call this the Renewable Energy Corridor of Utah.
Tim Latimer is CEO of Fervo Energy, which is drilling deep underground.
How far down are you drilling here? Right now we're at about 12,200 feet.
And harnessing heat from the Earth's crust to create carbon-free geothermal energy. Right now, geothermal accounts for less than 1% of U.S. electricity, but Fervo has used fracking and drilling techniques pioneered by the oil and gas industry to vastly expand geothermal use across the country. It says this site alone could eventually power 400,000 homes.
How big of a solution can this be? Yeah, we think that geothermal could be as much as 20% of the U.S. electricity grid. We can develop large projects that will really move the needle on the electric grid and climate change.
Google is one of Fervo's customers and plans to use geothermal energy to help power its Nevada data centers.
So when the sun is not shining and the wind is not blowing, this thing's still cranking. The earth is still hot.
And so is the demand for electricity. For Eye on America, Ben Tracy, Reno.
We look back on the lives and careers of two stars from the big and small screens. Next.
Tonight's Eye on America is sponsored by Prudential, protecting retirement and your life's work. Who's your rock?
Finally tonight, we remember two Hollywood icons. Gena Rowlands received 2 Oscar nominations for 1974's A Woman Under the Influence and 1980's Gloria. But modern audiences might know her better from the romantic blockbuster The Notebook, directed by her son, Nick Cassavetes. She also made 10 movies with her husband, director John Cassavetes. Rowlands died yesterday at the age of 94. We also remember Emmy Award-winning game show host Peter Marshall, who spent 16 years as the straight man to the celebrity-filled boxes on the Hollywood squares. Marshall, who started out as an actor, singer, and comedian, appeared on The Lucy Show and The Ed Sullivan Show, among others, but will be remembered best for his 5,000-plus episodes of the popular game show. Marshall died today in Los Angeles. He was 98. And that is tonight's CBS Evening News. For Nora O'Donnell, I'm Major Garrett. Good night.